Hello, my name is Mr. B. Today I would like to read for you from my collection of short stories. This collection contains many authors of various genres. Today's story is called I Am Nightmare by Jennifer Gifford. It is approximately 3 pages long. I hope you enjoy. Some call me opportunity, others have called me fate. In religious circles, I'm the devil, or the more poetic, tragedy. The title I hate the most is God's will. I am not of his creation, and he never wanted anything to do with me. Some even referred to me as the Grim Reaper, though I admit I am none of those things. At best, I am a parasite, an invisible symbiotic leech. Of all the titles, I hate the ones that chalk up my art as God's work. How foolish after all these centuries. You humans still like to explain away the bizarre happenstances in life to your religious preferences of choice. None of you has ever stopped to think that when you say God is in everything, that the devil can be too. While I am an opportunist, I have my own agenda and I work alone. I prefer it that way. I don't like the notion of sharing credit for anything, and I like the sharing of spoils even less. I do all the work, from the targeting, scoping, and silencing of my target. I am darkness, I am nightmare, and I am coming for you. I'm intangible, though I am given credit for taking many forms. I manifest myself into the foggy crevices of dreams, lurking about in the subconscious, waiting for the right moment to plant my seed. Waiting, watching. The mind is a vast ocean of sensory impulses tied to memories, a mesh-like web of who we really are, and the mind never lies. The beauty of it all is that I'm a true serial killer. The beauty of my unique existence and methodologies means that there will be no long arm of the law coming for me. There is no technology around, past, present, or future, that can track me. My world is a realm of sultry shadows and lurid thoughts tangled together like broken love knots, and bound by emotions far greater than love. It's true that love knows no bounds, but lust knows no ends. Lust is twice as strong and even sweeter. Jealousy comes in the color of jade. Green is the color that makes the world go round. There are hungers that the simplistic human palate cannot even begin to fathom. And those taboo and forbidden desires are a delicacy that have created an addiction in me that cannot be satiated. As I said, I am an intangible mist of twisted terrors, like barbed wire around the soul, and I manifest my image into the living nightmare of whoever's mind I am rushing. I infest slowly, creeping and skulking around in the person's subconscious, and I wait until the very moment where I can infest my diseased thoughts into the altered reality of their dreams, where I induced fear and always death. At their precise moment of death, I get their life essence in its purest form, before the soul vanishes towards the end of its journey. In those few moments as the soul detaches itself from the human shell, I get an emotional rush of adrenaline-laced fear that is stronger than any man-made concoction. But its volume is small, and it rushes through me all too quickly, and I'm longing for more. Too soon the fervor is gone, and it takes more of my energy to create a darker realm where I can terrorize them. Thanks to human technology and modernization, my efforts require more of my skills, yet they yield less of what I need. It's a vivacious cycle that is bound to me and I to reality. I am my own crown of thorns. When I let the fear rush their mind, it makes the brain scramble all the senses. I can almost smell their sweet divinity preparing to leave them. It attracts me, turns me on like a bee to honey. The look in their eyes as it happens is wickedly delicious. Their greatest fear is my weapon of choice. The destructive beauty of their last breath of life from my handiwork is a euphoria that only those who've touched evil can know. Every junkie has that vision of their ultimate high, that one idealistic moment that binds them to the destructive repetition. And though I am not tangible, I suffer the same snare. My favorite accomplishment was Amber McCartney. She was all sweetness and light, young and naive, although because of my immortality I have a tendency to remember everyone as young. Occupational hazard of the trade. She was an ordinary girl on a farm in one of the middle states, somewhere in the Midwest, maybe Kansas or Iowa. Geography means nothing to something like me, who has seen the birth of ancient civilizations crumble while new cultures were born. She was petite, attractive, funny, and everyone seemed to want to be around her, even me. I had taken the chance and came in with the fog one cool September morning and waited. I watched. She gave the appearance of being a good daughter, good student, and a good sister to her younger brother. The kids in Sunday school liked her, and everyone seemed to relax whenever she was around. I could see why. I was just as attracted to her as they were, but for altruistic reasons. On my last few kills, I decided to test a theory of mine. Would the volume and potency of the life essence be stronger and sweeter if the original source of life was too? Her sweetness and purity stirred in me a hunger I hadn't felt in years. I knew when the moment came and she tasted the fear and I tasted her divinity, it was the closest thing something like me could ever get to heaven. I waited, and my opportunity presented itself 3 days later. A typical Monday morning, but she was running late for school. Today she had to look perfect. It was the day that they would announce the nominations for Homecoming Queen, and Amber had her heart set on being a member of Summersville High School's Royal Court. Her parents were busy, her dad on a tractor in the West Field, and her mother was in the barn with the chickens. Her younger brother was still asleep, and I crept into her bathroom under the guise of the steam from the shower. Of all the forms I could take, vapor is the easiest and most overlooked. I knew what lurked in the small cubby beneath the sink. I knew what lay hidden there, and I knew what was going to happen. I knew Amber's worst fear. I saw it unfold in a bad dream. Saw the panic and shock on her face when it happened. It was then that I knew. My mouth starved to salivate at the impending unfortunate certainty that awaited poor Amber. The minutes ticked by, painfully delicious as I waited. I was giddy with anticipation, and I could barely contain the rush I felt from the sugary sweet life that pulsed around me, unaware of what was going to happen to her. She got out of the shower and checked the time on the clock hanging on the wall. Muttering a soft curse, she quickly dried off. Hearing her swear sent a new shiver of heightened hunger and longing within me. It turned out she was a sugar with a little spice. I watched, transparent like the wind. While she toweled her hair, she let the cheap terrycloth towel fall from around her body to pool at her feet. I watched as she looked at herself in the mirror, moving her body in various positions to observe it from every angle. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster's cry snapped her out of her reverie. She looked up at the clock again, frantically grabbing her hairbrush, almost as if in slow motion. I watched her reach under the sink, into the cabinet, and pull out the hairdryer. I watched breathlessly, felt the tingling sensation of adrenaline pulse through me, building to one twisted and beautiful moment where I watched my art come to life. In that moment, I too was like God. All these days of probing her subconscious, watching her in her day-to-day routine, had come to the perfect timing of this moment. I knew her fear. She flipped on the little radio, the FM station starting to blast the upbeat twang of a local country station. Plugging in the cord to the hairdryer, she grabbed her brush and flipped the switch of the hairdryer to high. The heat from the dryer fluffed her hair, spraying the layers of the short auburn bob like a wet string of cotton candy. Her voice was angelic, singing along to the song as it ended into one after that. She flipped her head upside down, shaking it rhythmically as the heat from the dryer started to dry her hair. I knew what was inside the hairdryer. I knew what the heat from the hairdryer would do. It didn't take long before small black specks began to emerge from the tube of the hairdryer, like an eerie foam slowly coating her damp locks. First a few, then a few dozen, then 100. Hundreds of newly hatched, fresh black spiders scrambled out of the safety of their cocoon in the barrel of the seldom-used hairdryer. Struggling to get away from the heat, they frantically crawled away from the source, their almond-shaped bodies and tiny, sinewy young legs stampeding with ardent haste into the safety of the damp coolness of Amber's wet hair. The tiny arachnids crawled mercilessly, struggling to get away from the scorching heat. They crawled further down her hair to the nape of her neck. When Amber flipped the switch of the hairdryer off, flipping her head back, only the tiny spiders didn't stop moving. They hurriedly crept over her neck, some choosing to move down her spine towards the small of her naked back, but the others moved over her neck towards her face. Amber flashed her reflection in the mirror, watching in paralyzed terror as hundreds of little black spiders crept over the smooth, honeyed complexion of her neck and face. Then it happened. Her pupils dilated and her mouth open, barely in time to let out the most gut-wrenching, terrified scream before frantically trying to swish the spiders off her face and neck. But the spiders didn't stop crawling. She waved her arms around and around, screaming loudly again, until she felt the soft pin pokes of legs creeping towards her lips. The needle-like sensations didn't stop. They only ran further up and down her skin, making her flesh crawl with goose-like pimples. Amber ran, flailing her arms around her, clawing at her face and her hands in desperate attempt to get the spiders to stop their persistent, mechanical-like crawling over her flesh. They rushed up her hands past her elbows. Their feathery light touch poured over her skin in an unnatural dance macabre. They made their way down her back, over her hips, and onto her thighs, seeking refuge away from the intense burning heat that awakened them from their sheltered cocoon. As she ran past me, I could smell the raw fear boiling and ebbing around her like waves. I inhaled sharply, drawing in the frightened essence of her innocence and purity. Her divinity washed through me, pushing me into a state of sadistic elation. It tasted like sweet peaches and honey. She thrashed around, stumbling out of her open bedroom door and accidentally slipping over the wooden railing of the staircase, landing on the hardwood floor of the farmhouse with a sickening thud. Everyone thought Amber died from the fall, but I know firsthand she died from her fear. I cannot imagine a sweeter way to go. It was the most exquisite kill I have ever had. It's the one that sets the bar for all the others that have followed. I lurk in the darkened shadows and wait, searching for a new victim, seeking out that brief moment that will allow me another fix. Whatever others call me, I know there is nothing else like me. I am immortal. I am Nightmare. Everyone has a morbid story to tell, and I am no exception. I'm just the precipice of other people's morbid tales. Eventually, I'll be a part of yours as well. And this concludes I Am Nightmare by Jennifer Gifford. If you liked this short story or would like to hear other short stories, please let me know. Your feedback and appreciation means so much to me, and I'd love to hear back from you. Thank you for listening, and until next time.